So let's start kind of transitioning from talking about causes and all this kind of stuff to what can we do to help it? What are the things that are, assuming that it actually is plantar fasciopathy or plantar fasciosis, what actually helps? I think when we hear about plantar fasciopathy, we hear roll it with an ice bottle. So like freeze an ice bottle and roll it. We hear get arch support and rest. That probably are the three things that I hear most commonly. Or if somebody comes in, what have you been doing for it? Well, I got one of those spike balls that I can freeze and then I can roll on it. Like there's a lot of remedies for this that people commonly use. What kind of merit is there for those? And orthotics would be another one that I think is very, very common. What sort of, I don't know, what's the merit of those things, and what can we hang our hats on?
So I'll jump on this, and it's not to say that nothing works. I really want to put that out there. It's that most of those interventions, there's short term, there's been some good evidence for acute use of things like orthoses or arch support insoles. There's been some good stuff for something called a night splint, where when you tend to sleep, some people will have their feet plantar flex, and you wake up, that stuff's really stiff. So it's trying to make that stuff a little easier. Taping has also been found to have some short-term relief of symptoms. Manual therapy or self-mobilization, where you're using the ice cup or you're using, the spiky ball that you paid way too much money for, and you could have just used a golf ball or tennis ball. Those things have had some good short-term efficacy for this kind of stuff. It probably won't solve your issue, so don't get super pissed off when you're like, hey, I did exactly what you said and it hasn't gone away. Because unfortunately, one of the best things that we've found is time, and trying to figure out why this thing is getting loaded in the first place. There's not very good evidence for a lot of the modalities. So stuff like laser, I've seen the shockwave stuff is getting really popular. I've seen very, very, very mixed evidence on that kind of stuff, just because this is a unique tissue. You got to make sure you have the right stuff. It's surprising you've found kind of mixed results for needling. I think because needling, in my opinion, needling tends to work better for muscle than some of these tissues. But, I don't do it as much as I would like in California. But time seems to be one of the biggest factors. We've even seen some kind of back and forth on some of the strengthening stuff, where there's some people have had these protocols where you do really intense loading of the tissue just like you would for a tendon. And for some people that works really well. In some people, it doesn't. I think one of the big things is trying to modify whatever stress might be irritating this, and then trying to make sure, hey, let's slowly reload this, keep you moving, whatever method you can, and just give this tissue a little time to heal. That doesn't mean stop running, by the way, for the runners. It means if you can still handle the running without pissing this off too much, you're good. Just make sure you modify some stuff so this thing can heal.
Yep. I think what I want to do is drive home one point that you just made about orthotics, or even just kind of reinforce that idea. I think oftentimes, regardless of the medical professional, there's a chance that they recommend that you go get custom orthotics if you have plantar fascia pain. And there might be somebody that's the right move. But from what we know, it's not usually the option you need to take. When there's the talk about short-term benefit, that's usually 2 to 4 weeks of benefit for that acute, and acute's not even necessarily the highly irritable phase of this to help with symptoms. And those can be bought over the counter. They can be cheap ones. They can be whatever is just feeling the most comfortable under your foot, whatever's providing the pressure or support. Like find the thing that feels the most comfortable in that moment for that short-term period to allow some of the irritability to calm down. But most people are not going to need to go and buy 200 pair of custom orthotics. Please don't do that.
600 is really common.
That's kind of what I wanted to hit home, because I think it's so common for that to be recommended for pretty much any foot condition. And the evidence on orthotics is that they have benefit for the short-term time. Obviously, like I said, there are cases in which, yes, you might need an orthotic, but that would be if you've worked with someone for a long time and you've tried all of the things first. If you've tried all of the things and all of the things, like Matt said, there isn't a a cookie cutter recipe to, solve all of these problems, but you go with an impairment based approach. You figure out where are your limitations, you work on those, you give it enough time to work on those and for the tissue to calm down. Because if you're working on strength and neuromuscular control, give yourself 20 weeks. I hate to say that, but like true strength gains aren't going to happen for 8 to 12. And then you have to relearn how to move and how to keep things relaxed. So give yourself long periods of time. This is pretty common now for a lot of different conditions, even a lot of shoulder conditions now, even like slap tears. They're saying conservative management for 6 months before you even consider surgery. So you really, and obviously this isn't surgery. This would be there are surgeries. There's a lot of surgeries for different things for plantar fascia pain. We're not going to dive into those, but I just wanted to reinforce that one. David, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think we've missed something pretty big, actually. I've been hearing a lot about stress, irritation, avoiding those factors, those types of things. One thing in the short term you can do as well is take care of yourself. Get sleep. There's a lot of good healing things that happen when you're asleep.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that are running themselves into the ground expecting nothing to happen, and they wonder why they keep getting worse and or not getting better. And so like sleep, and this isn't the case with everybody, but I've heard this a few times where someone's like, oh, I stopped drinking beer and my pain went away. Like some people who drink regularly or do things that abuse their body, or they have different inflammatory things, from a chronic healing standpoint, they're impairing their own healing. And so just some small lifestyle modifications, not to say don't ever do that, but to just try and keep tabs on yourself and just take care of yourself. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Yep. Make sure you're eating decently well, because your tissue will notice it.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably one of the most important things. And I'm glad you brought that up to address first, because oftentimes those can be some of the easiest changes. Can you get an extra hour of sleep? Can maybe you cut down on some activities that cause more of those inflammatory processes? Inflammation isn't bad, but if your body if it's happening in a way that slows your body's ability to recover, like alcohol does, like other things might do, like a lack of sleep, like stress, like all those kind of things, you might want to see if you could knock those out, because you might be surprised how quick this starts clearing up, or at least you can facilitate the healing a little bit better. But I think that's a phenomenal thing to bring up.
Yeah. Totally. Thanks, David. And also just get strong calves. Strengthen them. Probably good for pretty much everything. If you want to run, have strong calves.
That's true. Ironically, there is some very interesting evidence that those people, I'm not saying don't have strong calves, it's really important for running. One of the systematic reviews we were going over said that people with plantar fasciitis actually had stronger calves.
They were calf dominant.
But that's not causation there. That's correlation.
No, it's not. It was just a correlation. Yeah. But which I would bet comes from guarding, right? Because the calf muscle starts working really hard to stop that tibia from going forward and causing any stress. So it's not saying don't have strong calves. I'm just trying to cause chaos. That's it. Yes, you should be as strong as possible.
Get some strong calves.
Yeah, intrinsic muscle strength, calf strength, glute strength, quad strength, hamstring, everything.
Cool.